Tatum puts up a three.
Welcome to the Celtics Rewind. I'm JP.
And I am Nat, the GM. What's up, y'all?
Hey, Celtic fans. This is episode 13 of the Celtics Rewind, talking all things Boston Celtics. I'm JP, the franchise. Nat, the GM, is with me. How you doing, Nat?
I'm feeling good, no matter that first home loss.
Well, losing to the Denver Nuggets, I had to go and get me a 20-piece chicken McNugget after losing a bet, unfortunately. So that kind of hurts right there, and I'm still suffering from that one, but it is what it is, though. But we got a special guest right here on Celtics Rewind. He is the editor of the CelticsWire. Definitely follow CelticsWire wherever you get it. Like, please follow them because they're really dope. I have Justin Quinn with us. How you doing, Justin? How you doing?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Well, like I said, I'm still recovering from them chicken nuggets I had on Friday night and stuff, but it's okay though. It's okay. I'm living, and the Celtics started winning back, so I'm good right now. And we'll talk about the big play later on, which I was excited about last night. So, but I want to get a few things out the way before we get into the recaps of the games of the Boston Celtics. Number one, congratulations to Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Jaylen Brown to be able to be selected as the top 41 basketball players in the USA team to go and be able to represent Team USA. Hopefully they can get on the team because Celtics bias right here though. But congratulations to them. And number two, the Milwaukee Bucks. They just cannot get out of the news, though. There's always something going on with Giannis, or Damian Lillard can't guard a park car, unfortunately. But they end up firing their coach, Adrian Griffin, even though they had the second best record in the East and they were number one offense in the NBA. He still got fired because Giannis lost faith in him, along other reasons. So I want to get y'all's reactions to the Bucks firing Adrian Griffin.
All right. So, my thoughts were Terry Stotts before the season started. He's done, and that's odd because you make a big trade. And then, you get, Giannis and Dame together and everyone's like, that pick and roll. This is a team that you would think, you would want to coach, and Terry Stotts has history with Damian Lillard. So you're like, okay, this is going to work. This makes sense. He quits. He's like, no, I don't want this. I'm all set. That right there made me look at Milwaukee's situation a little differently because I'm like, what is going on over there where you don't want to touch it? So then, Coach Griffin, he gets the job. Now, they're number 2 in the East. Offensively, they are really good, but defensively, they can't guard a park car. And I don't know if you can necessarily blame all of that on Griffin.
No.
But I just thought that it wasn't necessarily a good move. 41 games in, we're halfway through the season, and you choose to fire your coach, but you're number 2 in the East. It's not like oh, we're in the play-in right now. So what is going on in Milwaukee where this is not working? Like, and it's almost as if there's not a lot of chemistry going on in Milwaukee. And they're concerned about how they look. And this sounds like it's coming from Giannis. I'll have to admit, I think this is coming from Giannis. Giannis is like, no, This is not the guy. So that's just what I think. Something's just not right in Milwaukee, and I don't think the new coach is going to fix it.
Yeah, I do think that Adrian Griffin is a well-regarded assistant coach, longtime assistant coach, former Boston Celtic. He played for the Celtics for a cup of coffee a while back, a couple decades ago. He will probably be a good head coach for another team sometime in the future, but this was not the right
Mm-hmm.
hire for him. As soon as they hired him, I was like, are they sure they want to hire? Like we see Joe Mazzulla, for example, in Boston doing well, but Missoula didn't have a choice really in the matter.
Yeah.
We all know how
Yeah.
that came together. This was not what the Bucks were dealing with, right? They did not have a major human resources violation issue or whatever else was going on in that particular situation to deal with. They just had to get a new coach. They had the whole offseason to do it. And from, I think it was Mark Stein who intimated that really it was Giannis, who was a big shall we say, vote in favor of hiring Griffin,
Yeah.
mostly because he did not want them to hire Nick Nurse. And I can understand that. Nick Nurse,
Mm-hmm.
he has a very mixed reputation, is the nice way to say that, between players.
Mm-hmm.
Some players really like
Yeah.
him, a lot of players really don't like his coaching style. So I think that they made the mistake, which is not uncommon when you want to try to keep your superstar happy, but once you have him under contract, maybe you can be a little bit you can make decisions in the interest of your ball club rather than interest of what he thinks is the right decision. Maybe this was their way of showing him how much they believe in him and his vision. Giannis, I'm speaking about here. Uh, but this was not the right hire for them. And it's not really fair for Adrian Griffin because it was pretty evident that he didn't have a different coaching strategy to put in place for the defense. And it may not have mattered regardless, even if he had tried something that was even vaguely coherent, because
Mm-hmm.
they have no wing defenders. Their backcourt is terrible for defense. Just who are they
Yeah.
supposed to like? They have good defenders on the team, but they're all it's. We were talking a little bit about Indiana before, and the discussion is a fairly similar one in that they have defenders. They're just situational slash paint
Mm-hmm.
defenders.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe can flash out to the perimeter, those kinds of players. And
Mm-hmm.
like that's a better version of what the Bucks have. They just don't have functional wing
Mm-hmm.
defenders or backcourt defenders anymore. And in today's NBA, which is a 3-point heavy thing and no defensive
Mm-hmm.
philosophy like before, they had very specific defensive philosophies to try to force you into taking less effective shots or less efficient shots.
Mm-hmm.
Now they
Mm-hmm.
just have this situation where they have a new guy who's trying to find his way, which is what you do on a losing team, not a team trying to contend for a title, right?
Yep.
So it was doomed to
Yep.
start, in my opinion. It was just a bad decision, and like it's even more strange that they are like they should have had an interim in place. I guess that was probably Terry Stotts, to your point, Nat.
Yeah.
Uh, but he's not there now, and Doc Rivers is not going to save them. I love Doc, but Doc is the wrong kind of coach again for the situation they're in now. They need like a Mike D'Antoni, or like they need somebody who is A, unemployed, and B, a tactician, which Doc is a player manager. He
Mm-hmm.
manages big egos for players who do not need systems necessarily.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep. I
and
agree with you.
I love how you said that, Justin. Doc is a manager, of egos and players. That's who he is, and I think that everyone like misses what what Doc is really good at and why he's so respected in the league, and it's because when you have a lot of egos, which when you're playing a sport and competitive sport, there are a lot of egos. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of people that you have to manage, especially when you're coaching. And Doug, what makes him so good is he can round up everybody and get everyone to buy in, to looking out for the man next to you, and that's what he's good at. Everyone gets on his record for not being able to win a championship in the last 16 years, but it's very hard to win a championship, number one, and he's been to the finals twice, so and he's had some type of adversity getting there. It wasn't a cakewalk in '08. I don't know if everyone remembers that. It was not a cakewalk. To get there, they went through some game sevens just to get there and then get into the finals. They did have to match up versus Kobe Bryant, and that's a tall order right there. But Doc Rivers, this kind of team in Milwaukee, if Doc goes there, there's nothing he can do because this is not his kind of team to coach. I don't know what they're going to do, but it sounds like one of the assistant coaches is going to have to step in. But a big time coach like Doc Rivers cannot save them. So I don't think this is the year for Milwaukee.
Do y'all believe that Doc Rivers was like in Adrian Griffin's ear the whole time he was coaching Milwaukee? Because there's been like a report out, somebody was saying that Doc Rivers was in Adrian Griffin's ear at all times, just calling him all the time and giving him advice on coaching what he needs to do. Do y'all believe that rumor?
I do. I think it comes from good sourcing, and I think that it makes a lot of sense. I think that Adrian probably knew the writing was on the wall as soon as they suggested that he get in touch with Doc, because it was pretty clear at that point that they were losing faith in him. And once you lose the faith of a locker room, it's almost impossible to get it back. And with a first-year coach with no track record, he knew it was coming.
Who are you going to call other than someone like Doc Rivers? You have a superstar in Giannis, and a star in Dame. Who else are you going to call? So if you have a relationship with Doc Rivers, I'd call him. If I was coaching a team, I mean, I'd call him. Like,
You
give
call
me
the next person you want to fill the job is who you call.
Right, right.
You call him. I mean, you need help, and he lost the locker room. Let's be honest, he lost the locker room. They don't understand his philosophy. They don't like his philosophy, but we're also not sure if he had a philosophy that
I,
was.
mean, I think he probably did, but it wasn't working, or they weren't following it. One or the other.
And they weren't following it right. So at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, this is just what you have. Very sticky in Milwaukee, but I don't think the core of this team that they have, I don't think they're going to win a championship this year nor the next. There's going to have to. I think they made some mistakes with some trades and trading the wrong people. Not understanding what they actually need, and other guys are getting a little older. So I think Milwaukee's going to have more trouble than they think, and it's not just this year.
I've actually been
Yeah.
wondering if one of the tougher contracts out there to trade, like, I'm not saying that it makes any kind of like good sense, but maybe we might see a contract like Zach LaVine or even Chris Paul end up there, uh, just to try to shake it up on a short-term thing. I don't think that the Levine situation makes a heck of a lot of sense for them, and that would be the ultimate panic move. But they have Chris Middleton. I think they don't know what's going to be happening with him. He is not the same player. He makes a lot of money.
Yep.
You could probably get somebody for him. It wouldn't necessarily be a great player, but the question is, do they want to try to, I think like somebody like Chris Paul would make a lot more sense because then you don't have like future years like you do with Levine. The fit with like if you think the defense is bad now, adding Levine next to Lillard, I could not imagine a worse defensive backcourt than that. But I would not be surprised if they make a panic move like the rumbles that we've been hearing about them being in on the Spurs, not the Spurs, the Hawks, DeJounte Murray. Like, that's nice, but how? Like, how?
It's gonna make Deontay Murray's defense even worse if he's the only defender.
I think he's a
The
good
Chris
defender
Paul,
when he wants to, like someone else we know, but
yeah.
Yeah, he's a good defender when he wants to be, but DeJounte is not going to save this team. They still they don't get it. What's the problem? You just can't stick people on a team like, hey, you can average 30, you can average 30. This is going to be great. Let's run it for 82 games. They go to the playoffs. It just doesn't work like that. You got to have the personnel. So let's see what they do. But Chris Middleton was the guy that they needed to move, and
yeah.
he's a shell of himself. He's older, slower. He's had some injuries. You can't beat Father Time, and you can't beat injuries. So, is what it is.
Yeah. We'll just have to see what the Bucks will do in terms of the trades and everything. So we'll just have to wait and see. But it's good that they're crumbling so that Celtics don't have to worry about them. Maybe we'll see Doc Rivers go across the court from the ESPN commentators desk to get into the bench and be able to coach the third and fourth quarter. We might see that this year. It might be the first time ever, but we just have to wait and see. So speaking of the games and everything, so first game the Celtics had, they went against the Toronto Raptors and won the game 105-96. Won 8 straight against the Toronto Raptors. So Drake, I'm sorry, you cannot beat the Celtics. So, so what's your thoughts, Mr. Quinn? Your takeaways from the Celtics' victory against Toronto?
Oh boy, the Celtics victory against Toronto. Well, I would say the biggest takeaway is they're integrating some new pieces in Emmanuel quickly, and oh god, who they just trade with him? Barrett, RJ Barrett.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think they're doing a good job retooling. I think they're really regretting, losing Fred VanVleet in free agency, and I think that really influenced them to, kind of get off of players that aren't going to be part of their future, like
Mhm.
Anunoby and Siakam. I do think they make more sense as a team in terms of how they look like they want to play, which is long and disruptive, athletic. They're getting younger with these trades. I think that Quickly is going to be a really nice addition for them once he gets used to the system. He didn't really look as dangerous as he was with the Knicks because he's on a new team. It was like the second or third game maybe that he played with them. So
Mhm.
that's really the thing that I'm watching for them moving forward. I think they have a couple more moves to make before the deadline, and not major ones, but just to kind of reshape the team around their new additions a bit more. They haven't really had much of a wing. They could still probably use. I'm not going to say that Dennis Schroeder is a bad point guard, but if you're trying to win games in the NBA as opposed to FIBA. He's great in FIBA, but in the NBA, he doesn't really seem to be a very successful floor general. So I think that they could probably look for some additional help as a backup point guard for a longer term solution. I think Emmanuel Quickly is the guy they're looking to be like their guy moving forward, and I think he's going to be a good option for that. I don't think they're going to be a threat for Boston or anyone else in the East for another 2 or so seasons, though.
No,
Yeah, when it
gotcha.
comes
I
to
like that.
um, yeah, when it comes to Toronto, I really like Toronto. I love Scotty Barnes. I've been watching
Me
him
too.
since he got into the league. He's going to get better, and better and better and better. He's going to be a Swiss Army knife. He's going to be able to do so many things, successfully every night, for a winning ball club. When they get to the point where they're fourth in the East, third in the East, he's going to be phenomenal in a big part of that. They have to build though. They have to get there. You have a young guy coming in that's going to be your focal point. So now you have to build the players. You have to put the pieces around him. The reason why I loved that trade with the Knicks is because Emmanuel Quickly. Emmanuel Quickly, if if our projections are correct with how he's playing and how he's doing and what he's done, he should have that Tyrese Maxey kind of like he'll escalate that far. He should be a Tyrese Maxey next year. I think that's a great trade. You need a guard, you need a dynamic guard, someone that fits well with Scotty Barnes. In walks Emmanuel Quickly. Great trade. RJ Barrett, I think that's a nice piece too. He's more of a two, So they're putting it together. And Dennis Schroeder, he's a bench guy. I love Dennis Schroeder
Me
actually.
too.
I don't think he's
Hmm.
a,
Yep,
a
yep, yep.
starter necessarily for every team, but for some reason, if you put him in the right system, he's just fun. He does some really good things out there.
Hmm.
He makes some big
Hmm.
shots. He can be a feisty defender too.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
there's just really good pieces in Toronto. So once they start shipping some guys out and getting some picks maybe, or getting some other young guys to build around Scotty and then Emmanuel Quickly, you're going to see them turn around. I give it about 3 seasons.
That's about right.
I like that. I like that. But shout out to the Celtics getting the victory. Shout out to Jason Tatum with the
Mhm.
double too as well. Moving on to the next game, the Boston Celtics had the San Antonio Spurs at home, still
Mhm.
undefeated at home at that time too as well. And Boston dominated the Spurs 117-98. Victor Wembanyama's first time ever playing in the TD Garden, and he had like a quote saying that Boston is just a really good team, love playing in the Garden. They just know how to play well with each other, from like the star players to like the role players too as well. There was no Pozingas, there was no Derek White in this game, and I should have mentioned in the Raptors game there was no Jalen Brown too as well. Mr.
Mhm.
Quinn, what's your takeaways and thoughts of the Celtics' victory over the San Antonio Spurs?
Well, the one thing that I will use to connect the two teams we've just been talking about is there's been a lot of complaints about Point Sohan. When I say that, I mean Jeremy Sohan playing the point guard for
Mhm.
the Spurs this season, which has not gone incredibly well. That said, it's not really supposed to go well, right? They're not secretly trying to get another good player to put around Victor Wembanyama, which they should. It's not a very good draft, so
Yes.
they're not gonna get a franchise changing player, but they'll get a good supporting cast around him that way. And as a side benefit, they get a forward who can move the ball a bit, right?
Yes.
Not necessarily to the level of point
Hmm.
guard, maybe, but enough to really improve his ability to do so in the future. Which is the same
Hmm.
thing that they're doing with Scotty Barnes in Toronto, and no one is criticizing him. Why? I don't get that.
Yep.
That said, I don't think anyone ever thought the Spurs game was in doubt. The quote that you mentioned, Wemby talking about, also was right before he mentioned how he really likes TD Garden as an arena, but the weight room is too small. And all I could do was think about in the 1960s how they used to like turn the hot water off for the visiting teams. It's just like
Mhm.
you have no idea, man.
Jeez.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of fun to watch him.
Yeah. Uh, San Antonio is a nice up and coming team. We could all see why Pop, was like, wait a minute, I'm not done just yet, because when you got Wimby coming in, geez, I saw him play 20 minutes in one game, 20 minutes. He had like 26 points, and 7 rebounds and a couple of blocks. I'm like, Jesus Christ, 20 minutes? That's it? You know? If you're going to do all that damage in 20 minutes and then you're a young kid, so then you're going to start playing 33 and 35 minutes. Jesus Christ, what's going on? Um, he is a talent. He is a talent.
Yes,
He
yes.
is going to get a little bigger. He is. It's just gonna happen. You're gonna hit the weight room. Your eating is gonna change. Your body change. You're gonna get bigger, and that's scary because he's not gonna be too big. He's gonna be big enough, and he can move so fast. 1 through 5, he can block, he can guard, and that is it's just amazing to watch. I give them a few more years because Pop is grade A at what he's doing. You know.
I don't know if you
Oh
guys
yeah.
remember for the non YouTube crowd the Derek White block from behind attempt. That was interesting. That was a different game, but
Oh yes.
yeah, I was looking for something like that, and we didn't get anything quite as outrageous in this game, though he did have that weird like he just kind of like bent backwards and put it in.
Yeah.
Just like he's like Plastic Man or just I like some kind of like superhero because like his body just contorts in strange ways and suddenly he's at the rim. It's just
It's
scary.
amazing.
Yeah, but somebody made the point the other day, and I'm sorry I can't remember who said this, but this is the worst he's probably ever going to be.
Yes,
That's
this is
scary.
the
Yep.
rookie season is his worst, and his best is, oh my God, he's
It's
like
coming.
he is going
It's
to be
coming.
the face of this league. Like everyone's talking about the face, the face, the face. Look no further. Wemby is going to be that guy. This Spurs team, they're playing exactly how they should play. They're young. They're figuring it out. Pop is trying to see what he has and who's gonna have to be shipped out to get some different talent. A name that they keep throwing around is maybe bringing DeJounte back to San Antonio. Because he'll work really well with Wemby. But
Yes.
Boston's supposed to win these games. I think last season we were always talking about they should have won that game. They should have won that game. This is the season where they're actually winning those games. So it's young team coming in. It was fun, but yeah, they won.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that Victor Wembanyama tried out for the Fantastic Four. That's gonna be coming out in a couple of years. Being able to be like Mr. Stretch and all that, since he's stretching all these
Yep.
people. And you speaking about the TD Garden, just remember when our back in Game 5 of the '84 Finals turning the AC off for the Lakers.
Amazing.
It just reminded me of
Brutal,
that
man.
story so much because we took the win, so that's all that
Allegedly.
matters, though. Allegedly, so I
Allegedly.
don't want to say allegedly, but when Kareem is finally on the oxygen tank, just like, oh god, I can't take it no more stuff. It is what it is. Allegedly, we still got the victory though. But speaking of actually losing, unfortunately, at the TD Garden, the Denver Nuggets came into town and Nikola Jokic had to ruin the
Mhm.
fun of everybody, unfortunately.
He's good
This
at
was the
that.
game to watch. He's really good, yes. It's unfortunately what I'm trying to say is that we thought that it was going to be a victory because we had the lead, and this is the game everybody wanted to see. And unfortunately, the Denver Nuggets was just too much in that fourth quarter for Boston as they
Mhm.
beat Boston by a close margin, 102 to 100. So, what
Mhm.
happened? What was the collapse? What was that moment when Boston just couldn't get it done, unfortunately? Mr. Grant, I'll start with you.
I would say that the thing that happened was a very short, very brief, and very familiar style of play late in games.
Mhm.
We saw, and I understand why a lot of people freaked out after the loss, because it looked a lot like what Boston has done against the top teams in the league, the Golden State this season, Golden State in the
Mhm.
2022 finals. Uh, it was a very familiar my turn, your turn, ISO, ISO, ISO. Crap, it didn't work. Panic, panic, panic. Game over. Right?
Mhm.
We've seen that movie so many times. This season, we were talking a little bit off air. That has happened a couple times, right? And it's
Mhm.
concerning. But one losing streak, 2 games, all
Mhm.
season long, and they've recovered from these situations. They don't like wallow in their misery as they have, for some stretches of even last season. And it really just came down to, look, I don't watch the Denver Nuggets every game they play, or even more than maybe 6 or 8 games a year. But Jokic and Murray do not hit that many damn shots every damn night. They don't, right? They were really, really good that night. They were on, they were feeling it. The defense could have been better, but really the thing that really killed them, because the defense was not bad, and they answered tit for tat throughout the entire game until that late collapse. They just went to some stuff out of, when they're under pressure, they go back to old habits, and old habits are not necessarily good habits.
Yep.
They just need to break out of that, because they literally lost a game by one possession. I
Yeah.
like our chances in a game in a series of 7.
Yeah. When I think about the game, I was actually very happy, and
Same.
it sounds weird, but I was
No,
happy
not at all. Bigger picture.
because you got to see what it's going to look like in a series. That's the game we've technically been waiting to see. How does Boston fare against Denver with the addition of Kristaps Porzingis? This is technically what we've
Mhm,
been waiting for. Um,
mhm,
and watching it, I got exactly what I needed. I was like, okay, someone was going to win, someone was going to lose. That's fine. That's
mhm.
just how it goes. But you have to look deeper into what actually happened in the game. What I saw
Mhm.
was Michael Porter Jr. struggled. What I saw was Aaron Gordon struggled offensively, you know?
Good
Mhm.
job with him. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yep.
what
Yep.
I saw was a team that's going to take these wings out of it.
Mhm.
But Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have to get it in their heads that they are going to be more aggressive and put more pressure on the defense to and to really get them in foul trouble
Mhm.
and to make better shots, take better
Mhm.
shots and make better shots. They have got to
Mhm.
decide that. You lose this game because of bad decision making, and you unfortunately you paid for it, but you only lost by 2. Jamal Murray, maybe you have to do something different on him.
They do. That's really because
Yep.
you're not
Yeah,
going
they
to
have to.
you can't double Jokic. If you
Yeah,
double him, then
Yep.
he's
Yep.
just going to send it to someone, score,
Yep.
done. So
absolutely. You
I
you got
agree.
to do something different on Jamal Murray, but it's great that you saw that. So now you're not going to adjust to try to get Michael Porter Jr. necessarily going and Aaron Gordon. You're banking on Jamal Murray's going to average 30 in that series, and Joker is going to average 30. Oh, okay. So if they're thinking if we play good defense, we can beat Boston. What I also saw was Kristaps Porzingis. No one could guard him. No one noticed that.
Yep.
And you went away
Yep.
from him the whole time.
Yep.
You went away from him.
Yep.
He had Jokic going every which way. Jokic couldn't keep up with him. Jokic was late to the
Could
3-point
not got him.
line and
Mm-mm.
he
Mm-mm.
left Kristaps' hand. That's
Mhm.
what I saw. So what I saw was a team that if they learn to play through Kristaps Porzingis more and in these kinds of matchups, these are games you'll win by 5 to 10 as
Yep.
opposed to losing by 2. So I
Yeah.
was I was
Yep.
Your point about Murray, I think, is the most important takeaway because they tried to stop everybody, and you just cannot stop everybody on this Denver team. You
Mhm.
have to pick your poison. And as absurd as it sounds to mostly let Jokic eat, that's really the move, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah, the Murray
Yep.
piece. It's the Murray piece because if you think about it, you guard Murray. You can rattle Michael Porter Jr. But Joker's going to be Joker. But if you allow Aaron Gordon to have to be the savior, he has to shoot efficiently. I'm living with that, and I think Boston will too.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
great game, but I like what I saw. It was very encouraging, and we only moved from first to first.
That's going to be the NBA Finals preview. I hope that's going to be the preview of the match and all that. I definitely do like, if Aaron Gordon has to win Denver Nuggets that game against Boston, I like our chances. If you let Jokic get 30, 40 points and you can stop everything else, I like Boston's chances too as well. And they got to, and like you said, they need to give Porzingis the ball more. There's been I think against the Pistons, Porzingis could have had more than those touches that he had because he always had a mismatch and they go away from him. And I'm just like, yo, Porzingis is cooking right now. Why are you going away to Porzingis and going
Because
to
the game
Tatum and
needs a
Brown?
JT fadeaway from 15 feet with a hand in his face, obviously.
Always.
Evidently.
And he smoked the layup. Like, oh, just thank you, Jason Tatum, as I had to eat some chicken nuggets after that game right there with that bet. But it is what it is, though. Shout out to the Denver Nuggets for that victory. So on to Houston. Boston faced Houston, and it was a good game for the other people too as well. Shout out to Derek White, and shout out to Drew Holiday too as well. As the Celtics defeated the Rockets 116 to 107. Not so much a great game from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, unfortunately. And then, being able to get Jalen Green to outscore or outduel Tatum and Brown, that was something to see right there. That was very surprising. Albert Sangoon with a huge game too as well, but it was the others for Boston that really stepped up to the plate. Mr. Quinn, what's your takeaways and thoughts of the Celtics' victory over Houston?
I am very, very glad that they did not get smacked in the face with a team that was more than ready to kick their butt. it looked kind of like neither of the teams wanted to be there at the start of the game. But honestly, once the Celtics brought out the clamps in the second half, the game was pretty much over. I was surprised that Houston managed to hang, I think, for most of the first quarter with them.
Yeah.
They're going to be a good team. They already are a team that I think has at least a good chance of getting into the play-in this season, which would do wonders for their experience and their egos. Apart from what I think of Ime Udoka as a person, uh, as a head coach, he knows how to get people to buy in on defense. And I honestly think that the Celtics should see an image of a younger version of themselves and take
Yes.
the lesson that even though, like the Rockets, they don't have the offensive talent yet. It's still raw, it's still unrefined. The Celtics have, I think, the top offense in the league right now, if not within top three. And they can win games on purely their offensive mastery and often do. But finally, this season, and particularly, I think in that game, it's finally really started to click that in games where, as long as things aren't spiraling out of control, they can lean into their defense and find their way that way, even when their
Mhm.
shots just can't hit anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that when it comes to the Houston Rockets, they're young. They have to figure out who they are. They don't know yet. We know Sengun is a hell of a center. So a lot of people, I like to call him Baby Joker. You
Yeah, I
know,
like that.
and I like
Yep.
it. We haven't begun to see how good he's going to be. He's going to get
Oh,
better.
he's gonna.
You know, we got to figure out. They got to figure out what they're doing with Jalen Green. He's had an up and down season right now. Jabari Smith. They've had a lot of pieces that it just seems that they're not meshing well
Tari Eason being
together.
out hasn't helped either.
Which one?
Yeah.
Tari Eason,
Troy
he's been
Eason.
in and out of the lineup all season.
Oh yeah, yeah. So and then he's in trade talks right now. He might be shipped out this year. So it just doesn't make sense just yet. And once they figure that out, and now they say, okay, this is who we are. This is our identity. Then you're going to see the Houston Rockets have an OKC kind of progression,
Yep.
and all of a sudden they're a fourth seed.
Where
They're a
did they
fifth
come
seed.
from?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where'd they come
Yep.
from? So yeah, but
Have
good game.
I think a top 10 defense right now. I mean, they're not a bad team. They just can't. They have no consistency with their
No
offense.
consistency. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all it is right there. And then for Dylan Brooks to outscore Tatum and Brown, unfortunately, that was just not good to see right there because I am not a huge fan of Dylan Brooks, though. But on to the next game and all that. Against the Dallas
I
Mavericks.
respect them. I will say that.
I respect them, but yeah, sometimes you just don't poke the
Anybody
bear,
who's
Dylan
crazy
Brooks, and
enough
we
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Don't poke the bell, Mr. Brooks. But no, I respect them. I was just kidding around. So the next night right there, they had a back-to-back right here. They had the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic. Thank God he didn't have those braids in his hair that I saw at practice and stuff. But he came out, firing along with Kyrie Irving too, as well, and Tim Hardaway Jr. And the Celtics was just too much of them. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum redeemed themselves from the game against Houston, and they put out a classic right there, as they always do as a duo, 119 to 110. Boston with the victory. Mr. Green, what's your takeaways and thoughts of the Celtics victory over Luka and the Mavericks?
So my biggest takeaway is that feeling, and I know the feeling that I'm talking about when you are playing the
Mm-hmm.
Mavs and it's halfway through the fourth quarter and
Hmm.
that crap starts
Mm-hmm.
happening with Luca.
Yeah.
I didn't get that feeling
Mm-hmm.
this
Yep.
time,
Yep.
right?
Oh, yes.
Which was
I
great.
agree.
Yes.
Apart from that, uh, the Mavericks look better than I thought. Derek Lively looks much better than I thought.
He's
He
good.
is a
Yes.
gem for them. Yeah, they need to play him more. I
Yes.
don't know why they don't. I mean, he does foul a lot. He does make mistakes. He's a rookie. He's going to. They're
Yeah.
not winning the title this year, so they might as well just play him and see what they have and get as many minutes in as they
Might
can,
as well.
in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not Jason Kidd, thank God. I'll just leave that
Absolutely.
there. Not
Oh
a
man.
fan. But the Grant Williams situation, sometimes the grass is not always greener. And speaking of Dennis Schroeder, I don't know if you guys remember during the Toronto game, there was a moment where he and Tatum collided and Schroeder just went flying onto the ground. And like he looked like he was gonna do like his, fake foul grifting to the refs. But once he saw no refs were looking at him, he just smiled. And like JT did not even look behind him. He just knocked him on his ass and just kept walking. Sorry if I
Yep.
knocked him on his posterior. And so I was like, wow, man, this is a new JT, because before he'd be like, hey, man, are you okay? Helping him up and being his best friend. And it's just like now he is like ready to kill you until the game is over anyway. And we had a moment like this when Grant tried to do that buzzer beating heave, and like Tatum just hip checked him into the audience. that was great.
It was great. It was so good. So good.
Even apart from just the big brother funniness of it, just like to see that he has that mentality about former teammates that we know he is close with, it's just great to see, because that means that he's not going to be like, hey, LeBron, let's hang out after you beat our team. Just like he did when the Nets swept the Celtics. He went and hung out with the Nets after they sunk the Celtics. Like, I get the AAU thing, but like I'm not one of those like, yeah, you gotta beat up everybody on the court and stuff, but like just like show some like Celtic
Be
pride.
mean. Just show
Yeah,
some aggression, so competitiveness. Like just
Something.
show some
just a little, and he
just a
is.
little
So
bit.
I'm happy.
Yeah, Tatum's got to be meaner. When mean Tatum is a great Tatum. When
Yes.
there are
Hulk
no
smash Tatum, yeah.
there are
Yes.
no bad games with mean Tatum. They're like when he gets
Mhm.
like what the hell, and you can see it in his face, and he's just
Yep.
taking off
Yep.
every challenge. He's 35 points, 40 points, 45 points, because he's so aggressive that he can get by anyone.
Two
You
texts
know,
goodbye, depending on who he's mad at.
yeah.
Mhm.
Depending on
That
who
Mhm.
crap
he's
needs to stop.
depending on who's mad, he can't get mad at the refs. The refs
Yeah.
are going to be fair
The
weather all the
refs.
time. It just
Mhm.
is what it
He's
is.
got a reputation and needs to work on fixing it.
He does, and what it is,
Yes.
he's got to learn how to tap some of them and say, you know what, okay, And when you do that, it's a couple years go by, a couple seasons go by, and all of a sudden you're getting those calls, that we know you should get. So he's
Mhm.
got to mature. That's maturity. He's not, and he's not. We got to remember he's 25.
If
Yep.
you want to fight, the refs, the way to do it is not on the court. You do it on the
no,
Yeah.
podium. You take the fine, and very, very, very often you will see when a coach or a player does that the referees will officiate a little differently in the next game. Not
absolutely.
always, but sometimes.
Yeah, and that's how. So he's got to mature. He does. But that was a great game. Tatum outplayed Luca. If we're going to be honest.
Yes.
Jalen played. Oh man, like when he broke his ankles, like when he got him with the tackle, just like so many great moments in that
Ah.
game. Sorry, I did not mean to
Luca,
interrupt.
Luca just you got Kyrie over there. You got some players, and are like you should be a little bit better here. Your team should just be a little bit better here. But alas, you know, um, there is no Kristaps, so therefore, it's like Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown versus Kyrie and Luca, and they just smoked that matchup, So um, it was I had expected Boston to win. Usually when they play Dallas, it's like it could go either way,
Coin
and it,
flip.
it could.
Yeah.
But this time I was really confident. I was really confident in just how they've been playing this year. So it was a great win, So here we go on another roll.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Man, you know what? I'm about to have my fireplace and stuff, and we'll go ahead and order the poster of Luca ankle broken by Jalen Brown, so that every day I'll come into the living room and just love the fact that Luca just went in slow motion, just like the make. Ooh, like ooh, look at
Made
him
him
going
change his
to
shoes at
town.
halftime, man. That's it.
Uh, I
That
mean,
was
if it
funny.
was that. it was that bad of an ankle breaker and stuff, and I was like, finally Luka went down, and he might be humble for the next game against the Celtics, or he might go out for 60 points against the Celtics. Who knows? Because when Luka go remember that moment, and he's like, all right, not again, right here. But shout out to the Celtics with that huge victory, and then the next couple of games too as well, because we about to be finishing out January. So they have the Miami Heat at Miami on Thursday, and then they have a three home games stretch where they go against the Clippers. Hopefully, we see Kawhi Leonard in that game. They have the New Orleans Pelicans. Hopefully, we have everybody healthy, Zion and Brandon Ingram and all of them. And then they have the Indiana Pacers yet again, and this time they have Siakam with them. So, Mr. Quinn, I'll start with you. How you think the Celtics is going to favor the next couple games, and what game you really looking forward to?
Not the Pacers, because this will be, I think, the fifth meeting of the season, and it's just like, aren't we only supposed to play a team 4 times in a season? I know it's the mid-season tournament thing that's making that happen, but
I
Oh,
got
just look
I
at their
got the
schedule.
answer.
They're 10 games this season. That's more than a tenth
Yeah,
of their season for 2 teams.
yeah,
But I'm not. This is not the Pacers pod. I think honestly, the game that I'm most looking forward to is beyond that, when they play the Lakers again, just because that's
mhm,
always going to be a good game, and I really want to see where the Lakers are at. Hopefully, they made a move by then. It's going to be pretty close to the trade deadline, just about a week ahead of the trade deadline. So hopefully, they will have made whatever moves they need to make by then.
mhm.
Uh, but it's going to be really interesting, because this is one of the hardest remaining stretches, but it's also that 7 game home stretch.
yeah. I
Um,
agree with
yeah.
you. And Nat, the same question to you. How you think Boss is going to favor the next stretch of games, and what game you really looking forward to? And to answer your question, Mr. Quinn, the reason we keep playing the Pacers so much is Larry Bud is the consultant over there with the Pacers. So we have to
Yes, he
see a lot of
is.
Larry Bud right there. We have to make sure number 33 is alive and well. So, but Nat,
Steve
going back
Kuberski?
to oh, back
Oh,
to
you mean
your
the guy
question.
after him?
Oh, back to your
Listen,
question.
um,
Sorry.
the Miami one, I want to see. I want to see.
Definitely.
'Cause that's with Terry Rozier being traded now. That it's added an extra flair to this series with Miami and Boston because Terry Rozier is an ex-Celtic drafted by the Celtics. Um, which I think that's like a little bit of a reason why they really wanted him as well. He's a guy that he's gonna try to stick it to his old team because especially when they didn't keep him and
But he
they thought
left on such good terms,
he's left on great terms. Um,
torching the entire team on his way out.
I know that's the one player I was absolutely pissed when they let him go. I
They
thought
probably
that
should have missed it Kemba.
it didn't make any sense.
I love Kemba too, by the way. But
Yeah, Kimba's great, but that's the Terry Rozier is my one regret. The past 5 years, 5, 6 seasons, because it made no sense. He was on the same
They didn't.
trajectory as every other young player in Boston, and you get mad at him for doing young player things. It never made any sense. So you go and get a veteran for these young guys, and you just ruined what could have been. You could have saved money. Terry was going to grow. He was a feisty defender. He could score. Decent point guard, or playmaker, I'll say. But he could have grown into that role even more in Boston. Just bad decisions, in that year in that off season. So I just want to see how they play versus Miami because Miami is a better team than last year and Miami has a lot better players. So I want to see what they look like and how Terry fits in because there's going to be bad blood. But I'm going to assume Boston's going to lose that game. I don't know
I
why. I
would not be
just think that's
surprised. No, I wouldn't. I
I
mean,
wouldn't be
you
surprised.
can't win all of them, right? And
coming
this
all
is
of
a
them.
team that wants to prove something, with a player who wants to prove something. I do think they are more exploitable in their backcourt, but we were talking again a little earlier. I think
Mhm.
there's a good chance there's going to be a move for a defensive piece coming in at some point. I don't think that it's going to be in time for the
Yep.
game that we're facing the Celtics, but
Mhm.
I'll be curious to see how they look in the regular season. But I'm not super worried about the Heat in the regular season. It's the postseason I get worried about the
The
Heat
Yeah.
because they're
postseason.
not the
Yep.
same team.
Yep.
Like they play so much more intensely, so much better in the postseason. So I'm hoping that they fail finding that defensive piece because I think they're beatable by Boston in this current iteration. But they're really good at picking at all of the Celtics' weak spots. They are one of the best teams up there with the Warriors and the Nuggets at doing that. So here's to a very porous backcourt in Miami.
Yeah, the backcourt is of course you're right. I do like so in saying that they're better than last year, they have some good offensive players,
Oh
you
yeah, no,
know.
they are definitely a better team all together. Definitely.
Right, all together. So offensively they're gonna be great. I want to see how they play defensively. I think that Boston, I'm not a we all know this, I'm not a huge fan of our bench. I think that just we need
It's
something
way
else.
better, but it still needs more. I agree.
It just we need
Yeah.
something else. But I want to see this, but I just think that the addition of Kristaps in that series is going to be the difference maker, along with Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday has had a very low key season in
Yep.
these first 40, 41, 42 games. And I don't
He's
even
figuring it
think
out though.
no, he's picking it up, but
Yep.
it's been low key. And it's great that it's low key because people actually aren't really paying attention to Drew Holiday. They just think that he's just throwing
Nope.
up shots and he's missing them. In reality, Drew is going to come on even more in the second half of the season going into the playoffs.
Mhm.
Now, he doesn't
Mhm.
have to be a number 2 on a team. He's your number 4 or 5. You're going to see a different Drew, a different kind of point guard that we have not seen in a while. But his defense, the way he can guard in some occasions 1 through 4, and just really just stifle, a team, but also calm this team down. We have time. Let's not take bad shots. Let's set up the play. We're okay. That's literally Drew, and it's going to get better the second half of the season. That's why I think that even in the postseason, Drew and KP, we are going to be okay versus the Miami Heat. I just think that they just add a different dynamic that we have not had in the past when we face this team.
I like it.
Yeah, I can see that, and then also Derek White too as well because he's just like the X
Oh, we know
factor.
what Derek
Remember
White is. Yeah.
that?
The
Yeah,
stock
that last
exchange.
that last
Stock
time they faced the Miami Heat, man, Derek White had Jimmy Butler's number, and then that fourth
Yep.
quarter, Derek White turned it on. So Derek White is another one they have to worry about. But I also like Miami Heat. I like the players too. Jaime Jaquez Jr. I thought it would be somebody that could come
He
to
is the
Boston in the
gem of the
draft.
draft.
He,
Yep.
he was the gem of the draft, and I was like, I caught on. I was like, yeah, they got a good player in Jaime Jaquez. I wish Boston would have got him though, but they had to make the trade, so I understand though. So yeah, that's going to be a
hmm
game I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to the Clippers because with Kawhi finally being healthy with him and PG, I would love to see that matchup right there against Tatum and Brown. So yeah, it's going to be a good home stretch for the Celtics. Well, we just have to wait and see how they do the rest of January too as well. So yes, Mr. Quinn, thank you so much for
Anytime.
coming on Celtics Week, Ron. It's been an awesome time just chit chatting Boston Celtics with you and everything. And definitely check out CelticsWire. It's dope content, great writing too as well. And yeah, this is episode 13 of the Celtics Rewind. I'm JP, the franchise. She's Nat, the GM. That's Justin Quinn. Definitely, like I said, check out CelticsWire. Please check it out. And we'll see y'all later. Peace, y'all.
Later.
Take care, y'all.